U.S. President Donald Trump says he was testing NATO partners when he asked for their support with the war on Iran. He made the comments while meeting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ahead of the alliance's annual summit, which is being held in Ankara. Trump has criticized member states for not spending enough on defense and not supporting the joint U.S.-Israeli war on Iran.
In a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
NATO Liderler Zirvesi'nin
I would like to express how important this summit is. The fact that we are meeting here in Ankara is especially significant, as we will be attending the NATO summit tomorrow in the presence of President Trump, which will add greater strength and significance to our meeting.
Let's bring in Osama bin Javed, who's live for us now from Ankara. Osama, how much of a strain is the relationship between the U.S. and the rest of the NATO allies going to bring to this NATO summit, especially when it comes to some other topics that they don't necessarily see eye to eye on, like Ukraine?
Well, there has been a testing relationship between the other NATO partners and their biggest military force, which is the United States. And going into this summit, if leaders wanted to get a taste of what his intentions are, well, he said he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his good friend, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. It just goes to show that he values one NATO nation more than quite a few of them who he named as countries which have let him down during the Iran war. He's repeatedly posted on social media on how unsatisfied he has been, how angry he was about their responses. So that is going to be something that is going to hover over this NATO summit. You've already heard from Mark Rutte setting the stage, talking about $260+ billion that have been promised and earmarked and are being spent by various NATO countries on their military expenditure. You've heard President Zelensky, who is essentially leading Europe's fight against Russia, talk about how he needs more military hardware, including Patriot missiles, as well as other infrastructure that he requires, because it's a war that has now entered its fourth year. And that is why more and more reliance and support is required from the United States. And all of the statements that you see from the U.S. president are going to cast a shadow on how this summit progresses. The effort, as you've seen in the last few months, since the last meeting in Hague, from Mark Rutte has been to try and tell the U.S. president this is an alliance worth keeping, it's an alliance which is listening to him and spending more, although it's all of it combined is about 40% of the total share that NATO spends every year.
Osama, you mentioned there this relationship that the U.S. president says that he had with the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, that they have a very good relationship, is what the U.S. president says. And one thing they were talking about in this press conference together was the sale of American F-35s to Turkiye. And the president said this is a decision that they're going to make. The Turkish president said they're hoping this is a sale that would get followed through on. Why would this be such an important transaction?
Well, there's a whole host of reasons. The fifth generation aircraft, F-35s, that the Turks paid for and have been waiting on delivery were set back by the deal that they signed with the Russians. The then White House decided that it is going to pull out of that deal, put sanctions under the Adversaries of America Act. And the U.S. president has indicated that he's willing to reconsider it and maybe even remove it. That is going to be of concern to his base, especially those allies in Congress who've been pushing him against it, especially because of Israeli concerns about what this would mean for the Turkish capability to fight adversaries, where there's been a lot of murmurs about its relationship and how it's been evolving with Israel. And also there's concern from the U.S. Department of Defense on what it means about the Russian relationship with China and Russia, and the possibility of them getting their hands on this really advanced technology. But it appears that the U.S. president has trust in President Erdogan, the president of Turkiye has shown him time and again that Turkey is a time-tested partner, all the way back to the Iraq war, to Afghanistan, and now in Iran. And that is something that you hear them talk about as well, that on the Iran file, they're going to have discussions as well. So it appears that this is a relationship which is strong, which is evolving, and kind of bigger than the rest of the NATO relationship combined.
Osama bin Javed, it's good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us live from Ankara.